Say good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's indeed good to be here once again.
Yes.
Realizing that time is at hand. We got a good lesson this morning, and we don't want to shorten God's word. It's good to see everybody. See Brother Charles.
Yes, sir.
Always good to
Yes, sir.
see Brother Charles. I know he's got something for us.
Yes, sir. I ask you a question, man.
Yes, sir. We, not gonna prolong it, got a lesson on that should be relevant to us all today. Faith in God's purpose. As I was just talking to Pastor, we might not be able to see His purpose, but we gotta have the faith. We gotta have it.
All right. All right.
And we're gonna see this morning where there was a prophet, was where some of us are today. He was perplexed on what was happening. And he decided that he was going to sit on a watchtower and call God into question on why. Why? And we got to be honest with ourselves. We ask that same question, Pastor.
That's right.
Why? Why, Lord? Why you just allow this to keep going? And we're going to see his response to Habakkuk. That we can take solace in that he's still in control, still in charge. Our lesson this morning comes from Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, only 5 verses, 1 through 5. King James Version reads as follows. And I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what he will say unto me and what I shall answer when I am reproved. What he's saying, when the Lord calls him out, when I'm reproved, what he's going to respond. Verse 2 goes on to say, and the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Verse 4 says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Verse 5, yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathers unto him all nations, and heapeth upon him all people. Our key verse, Habakkuk 2 and 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. That's our consolation. It will surely come. We just have to wait patiently, and wait faithfully.
All right.
That's the key. That's the struggle. And it's still there today. We see what's happening in our world. Seems like God has turned his back. Because we ask the question, why, Lord? Why won't you deal with it? That's what was happening during this time. They were doing everything. Babylon was ruthless to Judah and Israel. Babylon was a pagan nation. The Lord was allowed it. Matter of fact, he used Babylon to punish them. That was the dilemma that Habakkuk had. Lord, why are you using this pagan nation to do what you're doing, to let them do what they're doing to us? But Charles, I saw your hand.
Yeah, and I wanted to give an analogy in my spiritual walk in life. You know, a lot of times, so let's say like you need more cash, you need more finance to pay your bills. You go get an extra job. Well, you might have an extra job, but your finances are not going to turn around right away. You're not going to work 3 jobs and make checks and your finances will change, but over time. And I'm finding more and more in my spiritual walk. A lot of times we say, well, I'm trying to change, trying to do better, but it seems like my struggles get harder. But it's the same way in our spiritual walk. The more you walk with him, the farther along you go. As time goes, like you said, by and by, his blessings will manifest more and more the more you walk with him.
That's
That more and more.
That's right. That's right. See, we're going to see here in our latter verses here. It's never enough without him. Listen what I said. No matter what you get, no matter how high you get, it's never enough without him. That's the dilemma that the world is in today. Because they've left him out. And without him, it's never enough. We're going to see this in the lesson here. Now we're back to Mr. Patrick, my do our introduction.
Good morning, class. Good morning. Amen. Intro. Since the dawn of theology, there has been the question of theodicy. How can a good God permit evil to thrive? Copying with the tensions between good and evil is part of what defines us as believers, and depending on how well we navigate the uncertain terrain between the two, the tensions actually develops us spiritually. The truth is, the concept of good and evil are relative. What good for one may not be for another. And the same goes for what is considered evil. What is evil to some may not be to others. Because the concept of good and evil are relative to the nature of human social context, God is neither. Ultimately, it is not a question of good or bad with God. Rather, it is about his will which transcends these descriptions. From where God sits, seeing the past, present, and future, all at once, he knows the kind of journey each of us must travel. The evil we may encounter now may be necessary for the good it will produce later. The Old Testament prophet Habakkuk wrestled with this question while serving God. He is introduced in Scripture during a tumultuous time as the ending of the 7th century, just prior to the Babylonian invasion. It was an agitated time characterized by rapid political change, international turmoil, bloody military encounters, and a growing internal rebellion. Given the circumstances, Habakkuk had some legitimate questions for God. God's response is the focal point of today's lesson.
We thank Mr. Parrish for the introduction. Let me just focus on one thing in this right here. You see, that was a time that when you look at it, transcends to this time today. It says it was an agitated time characterized by rapid political change. Where are we now? Same place. Same place. We got a climate now that we've never encountered into this. A rapid political change. International turmoil. What do we have now? Same thing. International turmoil. Bloody military encounters. What's happening in Israel, Hamas? What's happening in Ukraine? Same thing. And a growing internal rebellion. That's where we are. Now we can hide our head in the sands if we want to. Me and Pastor just talking. It ain't for everybody. If you can't handle it, You need to let it go. But the opposite of not handling it is sort of being in denial. That's where we are. That's what Habakkuk was dealing with. That's why he called God into question. Habakkuk. The problem is, Habakkuk wanted answers right then. And we're going to see God's response in our lesson. That word, theodicy, is the vindication of divine goodness and providence in view of the existence of evil. In other words, how can a good God permit evil to thrive? That's the question. That's the dilemma today. Because let's face it, if it was us, we would be done cut them off. If it was us. But God is a God of long suffering. He gives us all a chance. Because see, if we cut them off, he'll cut us off. That's why he's long suffering. That none would perish. But there's going to come a time that he's going to wipe his hands.
I think the praise of not taking this off, but off course. Today's dilemma with us as being a black people, they're still talking the same language, but they're smarter with it. Everything's to keep this down. And you're doing everything, making every kind of rule, you know. So our oppressor is still, you know, we ask a question in the back of our minds and saying the same thing. Habakkuk said, why?
That's right.
Lord, how long, you know, how long is this going to go on? Well, what we have done and overcome, because you're still here and you're still thriving. You're waiting on the Lord. To be truthful with you, you have overcome that by waiting on the Lord. Wait on the word in prayer. And I'm going to, you know, overlook the harsh talks, downtrodden, mistreatment.
Storm.
Huh?
The middle of the storm.
Yes, I'm going. Yes, sir. Although we're in the storm, we're going to be like God doing it like an eagle.
That's right.
We're going to fly above the storm. But the storm is still there.
That's right.
And our faith in God is what's going to hold us and keep us. Wait on the Lord. Still that same thing. Wait. What the scripture say, wait, and I do mean
Wait.
You know, Pastor, even in a couple of lessons that we didn't have previously, Daniel didn't have a problem. This is about his time. He didn't have a problem because he was taken care of. He had faith. And our lesson from last week is the same faith that we're supposed to have now. But for the ones who don't understand, this was what Habakkuk's question was for. Habakkuk was okay. Because if he wasn't, he went no way he could be up on the top of the watchtower watching out.
watching.
He was fine. Like Nehemiah was fine. But Nehemiah said, I'm looking back at my people. And we got the same situation. We know that God's been good to us. We know we just came out of bondage. But at the same token, we keep seeing our people doing the same thing over and over again. And God had just got us out of the same situation because of our disobedience. And we were asking why, but we ain't changing. The church should be full this morning.
You see,
Keep on blessing us and blessing us.
Habakkuk had a responsibility to look after God's people. Back then, if the prophets didn't tell the people, then he was going to be held accountable.
Right.
The prophet, he had a responsibility.
Yeah.
As I studied this, one thing that jumped out at me, and I saw it again this morning, there's no justice without Jesus.
Right.
And no Jesus without justice. See, our political climate today, we done left him out.
All right. Say that.
We done left him out.
Yes.
They talk about solving everything, but you don't never hear Jesus. You don't never hear God. We'll do this. There's no justice without him. Let's look at our first verse. Look at our first verse. one conversation. The prophet waits. And this is what he says: I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. In other words, what Habakkuk is saying, what am I going to say when God rebukes me?
That's right. That's right. He already knew.
Yes, sir.
He knew he was in the wrong.
Habakkuk said, what am I going to say?
Right.
In other words, I looked it up again and it said, when I'm dressed down.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. Habakkuk said, well, what am I going to say? Because he knew the Lord was going to dress him down.
Right. That's right.
He knew. You see, this verse here completes Habakkuk's second section of questions that began at Habakkuk 1 and 12. In this verse here before us, the prophet shifts from questioning the Lord to waiting for the Lord's response. When people call out to the Lord, the timing of his response is always perfect. Listen now, but it's not always as fast as we desire. Habakkuk himself has been impatient in this regard. Habakkuk 1 and 2. Habakkuk has no idea how long it would take, if ever, for the Lord to answer his second question. But he wasn't willing merely to toss his prayer to heaven and then go about his daily tasks. But look here, but instead, he sees the determination to stay focused as he waited for a response. The prophet envisioned himself as a lookout who would stand upon his watch. He was standing upon his watch as a lookout, saying what the Lord would do in essence. You see, in describing the task of a lookout, the phrase will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower. Would set me upon the tower, similar to Isaiah 21 and 8, where he said, I stand continually upon the watchtower in the daytime. I am set in my ward whole night. You see, in Habakkuk's day, lookouts were stationed at vantage points such as high towers and etc. From such vantage points, lookouts were in a position to see things that others could not yet see. Therefore, they warned of the approaching enemies. Listen now, the Old Testament prophets were spiritual lookouts for the people they served. That was Habakkuk, Old Testament prophet. In most cases, the people failed to heed the warning of these prophet watchmen. As I said a while ago, but if their failure to heed was due to the prophet's failure to warn, then the prophets would be accountable. If they didn't do it, but if the prophets didn't warn them, then the prophets would be held accountable. Amen. Listen at verse 2. The Lord responds. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables that he may run that readeth it. As I studied this, there was a reason he told them to write it on tables. Normally they wrote on scrolls, paper. But the tables would not deteriorate. Write them and make them plain, where they can run and tell people what was happening. As Habakkuk anticipated, the Lord answered the prophet's complaint. You see, the tables commanded of Habakkuk were likely made of stone, similar to the table of stones on which the law was divinely etched and given to Moses. The contents of this vision, etched plain and legible in stone, was therefore an almost permanent medium for the message. In other words, it would always be there.
That's right.
It would always be there. He goes on to say, the Lord sometimes commanded that his prophets write down his messages as witnesses for the people. In Then we look at the Lord, how he had an urgent message to give Habakkuk and the people of Judea. The urgency of that message required that it be clear and easily communicated. Even today, the Lord's message to us is urgent and sharp. Hebrew 4 and 12. And what that says, that the Lord's word is powerful, like a two-edged sword, cuts. His word is urgent, like a two-edged sword, cuts to and fro. Hebrews, read it, 4 and 12. That's how powerful his word is. Still today. Verse 3. This is the Lord talking. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry.
That's right.
You see, Habakkuk had waited for the Lord, and now part of the waiting concluded as the prophet received the Lord's response. But you see, there was more waiting to come for Habakkuk to see the fulfillment of the vision at an appointed time. God's promises would eventually be fulfilled, but not on a timetable that Habakkuk desired. He don't work on our timetable. Because this old boy right here, he want to see him deal with this evil. I do. But I gotta also understand, I'm not him. His ways is not mine. Just as far as the earth is from the heaven. But being honest, I want to see him deal with this evil in the world. And it's there. Pastor, it's there.
Make it plain that in there that was pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some stuff in there that say that. I don't know if you didn't want to talk about it or not, but you know, it was pretty interesting.
Go ahead.
So, it said, make it plain. I had just begun serving as a preacher when a more experienced preacher approached me with counsel strong sermons are short, simple, straightforward. A preacher should be able to communicate the sermon's main point in one clear, conscious sentence. This advice also applies to other communications, not just preachers. Consider Martin Luther King's dreams. I have a dream speech, given from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. One line can summarize that 17-minute address. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. This one line reflects the speech clarity of vision. The Lord had an urgent message to give to Habakkuk and to the people of Judah. The urgency of that message required that it be clear and easily communicated. Even today, the Lord's message to us is urgent and sharp. What steps are you taking so that you might communicate that message? And what really stood out again is that we look at this, and I hear more brothers talk about it. You know, we shouldn't have integrated, but God sent him to make sure that we was able to communicate with other nations without any problem. To show other people love, that we should be able to walk. Our church should be able to walk down the street with white children and play with them, just like they play with each other. But you know, like I said, man put out what they think that they should do. I heard a preacher this morning talking about that. If people don't know what they're talking about, they stay outside the church, but they keep controversy going on. They don't come in and get the truth, but they stay outside the church because it's more complicated for them to come outside the church. Because once you come inside the church, the Spirit is going to set you free.
That's why it says make it plain. Make it plain. What Dr. King was doing, Wasn't a long time. When he talked about his kids, little white kids, that was plain. That was plain. That was love and harmony. Same opportunity. Make it plain. That was plain. God's word is plain. It says what it means. It means what it says. His word is plain.
Prophesize. You can't. It's coming to pass.
The problem is we want to add too much in his word.
That's right.
That's not his word.
That's right.
That's the problem.
That's right.
His word is plain. You just look. I'm looking at this sheet. His word. That's why I don't get in no dialogue when folk get to talk. If it's not matching up with him, I'm through with it. His word is plain. It's easy. But mankind, listen what this says. We patiently, frequently become impatient when we have to wait. Rather than wait for God to act, we may take steps to expedite God's promises. Rather than see God as long-suffering, I think I mentioned that earlier, we interpret God's silence as his refusal to act or hear. Habakkuk needed to trust that the Lord would respond to wickedness in the Lord's own time and manner. You see, we've always kind of got ahead of God and want to do it our way. Look at Abraham and Sarah. Look, you know the story. They couldn't wait. Sarah told him, go sleep with my handmaid. God he's too slow for us. Look what the problem became. But see, he's long-suffering. Long-suffering. That's a powerful word. You look it up. Meditate on long-suffering. Something we don't have. Long-suffering. Look at verse 4. The two people, the prideful. It says here, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith.
Right. That's right.
You see, the Lord's message distinguishes two types of people. The first type is the person whose soul is lifted up with self-assured pride and arrogance. Such a perspective was indicative of Judah's enemies during this time. Listen now, Brother Charles.
Yes, sir.
Judah's enemies were Babylon. Now, Judah wasn't right either. They became arrogant and pride. That's why God allowed Babylon to punish them. They were. They were prideful. Judah. That's why the Lord had to allow them to be punished. But Habakkuk's problem was, look, Lord, why are you allowing them wicked people to punish us? They're worse than we are. The Lord pretty much told them, don't you worry about it. I'll handle that. I'll deal with them later. But y'all.
And see, that's the point I want to make. You see all the time, by the grace of God, they're going to be. You have to be careful how you put your mouth on other people, because somewhere either in our claws and our character, if God was to deal with us in some way,
The way we deserve. You're right.
right, the way we've been in just bad shape.
Yeah, I'll put it like this, I often thought the Lord wants to deal with them, but let me get out the line. You know what? You hear me? That's about what we're saying. If the Lord deal with them, we might be in line.
Truth be told, if he dealt with us as just as he should, we all be cut off.
That's what I'm saying.
We all be cut off. Because the Bible said we all like filthy rags.
Yes, sir.
Compared to him, we all like filthy rags. That's the long suffering that he allows, because his desire is that no one would perish. That's long suffering.
That's right. Yeah.
That's long suffering. You see, even as the Lord raised the Babylonians to conquer Judea, he acknowledged their pride. Even the kingdom of Judea and Israel were guilty of arrogance. This behavior was part of the reason that the enemies conquered them. The Lord detests those whose thoughts and behavior are grounded in pride. Proverbs 16:5. You see, the other half of this verse here offers an immediate contrast between two types of people. One type, the prideful, had just been discussed. We just talked about it. The second type, the just, live with an entirely different outlook, the outlook of faith. Their lives are grounded in righteousness. Such a person follows God's standards regarding their relationship with God and others. This person lives with integrity and without blame for wrongdoing. That's the outlook of faith. God expresses great pleasure when his people live justly and righteously. This is because his nature is righteous. The Hebrew word translated faith is also translated as truth. Jeremiah 5:1. To be a person of faith goes hand in hand with being a person of truth. Unfaithful people depart from the truth. 2 Timothy 2:17 and 18. In the book of Habakkuk, God calls his people to have faith in the truth of his plans. That's all he's doing. He calls his people to have faith in the truth of his plan, even when those plans seem unbelievable. He told them to wait. Although the Babylonians would prosper for a time by placing faith in themselves. Listen now. The people of Judea were to depend on the Lord. Babylon, they were prospering. Looked like they was getting away. Looked like they were getting away. That's what Habakkuk was sitting on that tower watching. Mr. President, I heard this. It's something.
Lord just put on a spirit about Solomon, when Solomon became king, he asked the Lord for wisdom. And his first task was to two women. One laid on her baby, killed her baby, and the other one said, hey, that's my baby. And when it came to Solomon, we talking about good and evil again. The one that said, that's my baby, when Solomon said, well, just cut it in half. And the one that wasn't her baby, she said, well, cut it in half. But the one that was her baby,
Spoke up.
she said, no, let her have it.
Spoke up.
And so, we have to look at the faith that he has shown us throughout the Bible so we can be where we need to be, to understand that he knows what he's doing. And we don't. I tell him all the time, if you can tell me what's around the corner, then tell me. Because I can't see that far.
I found verse 5, the prideful. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. But gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth upon him all people. You see, in a continuation of Habakkuk 2 and 4, which we just studied, the Lord's message returns to the behavior of the proud person. Becoming drunk, perhaps on wine, might follow successful military campaign. That's what the Babylonians was doing. Babylon's military success were intoxicating, leading the nation to desire more through military conquest. Babylon was incapable of staying at rest in her homeland. She wanted more. She wanted more. She wanted more. In contests involving death, it is translated as hell about half the time in the Testament, and grave about half the other time. Desires of the proud and arrogant never ceases. They never say, but Charles, you mentioned before, now I have enough.
That's right.
If you really want to see what the Bible says, read Proverbs 30 and 15, Ecclesiastes 5 and 10, Luke 12, 15 through 21. it talks about never enough. Never enough without him is never enough.
Can't get true satisfaction.
Until you have him. Until you have him, Brother Charles.
Yeah, when people say, well, I'm just not satisfied, something's missing, I just don't know what to do. You know, and you go all sorts of things, you know, they do, body changes, you know, go to gyms, read books, climb mountains. And it's just still just.
Listen what Ecclesiastes 5:10 says. He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance will increase. This is all vanity. Translation. He loves money. He who loves money shall never have enough. The foolishness of thinking that wealth brings happiness. The more you have, the more you spend, right up to the time of your income. So what is the advantage of wealth except perhaps to watch it as it runs through your fingers? The man who works hard sleeps well, whether he eats little or much. But the rich must worry and suffer insomnia. It's never enough. Without him. Without him. And you can have him and have no money. The world now is looking for happiness all in the wrong places. Wealth, power, position. You got politicians selling their soul. Saying everything and doing everything just for one reason. Power, prestige. Knowing it's wrong. Knowing it's wrong.
Is that what you're saying, David? You know, part of David's prayer, you know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
That's right.
And then when we let that want possess us, and then we want to turn to Paul, you know, Paul said, I gotta be content.
That's right.
Content, you know, in all things, you know, in all things, whether it be bountifully
That's right.
or amazed, you know. So
He's the one that had much or nothing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we in this life we gotta reach that point. Lord, I thank you for all the many blessings you gave me. But Lord, you know, I'm thanking you anyway because you made a way out of no way. I'm thanking you as well as what it is.
Keep on doing it. Keep on doing it. Brother Charles, with that question, what you was just talking about, you know, all the things that we do. The question says, where's the God of humanity in the face of inhumanity? It said, according to the lesson, there is an answer to these questions, but not an easy one to digest because it requires a discipline of waiting and trusting to fully appreciate its meaning. We want a God to be on time while we are waiting for his answer. But we are to live by faith. So when they come to you and say, well, I don't know what to do, and you say, well, go see Jesus. That ain't the answer they want.
Right. Right. You're here. You're here because you're waiting. Yeah, that's right. We're waiting. That's right. We're waiting. God ain't answer. I have asked God a whole lot of questions, you know. You know, all the answers had not come. But in time, some of them did. Did come. You know, but they know you wait on the Son.
Old saints have said, I'm waiting on my change to come.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Wait.
In our faith, he keep on blessing us. He keep on giving us what we need through our faith. So we don't have to worry about he said you have to live in the world. You don't have to be of it. But we want to try to be of it and live our faith because we're trying to mingle when you say if you play with fire.
And it's just like this now, in which we don't realize we just are reading today, and we overlook a great point here. God allowed the Babylonians
Yes, sir.
to overcome
Yes, sir.
his people.
Yes, sir. He allowed. He allowed
And
it.
then Habakkuk, the spokesman of God, why, Lord, and how long?
Yes. Yes.
Well, the question was within them.
That's right.
Because you are disobedient people. And I'm gonna let, and the answer within that, this is my master talking here, I'm gonna let your oppressor
That's right.
be the one to punish you.
That's right.
You know
Are
what?
you will?
I'm gonna say something.
You know.
I'm gonna say something that might not be real popular, but I'm gonna say it.
Politically,
I believe America is in a predicament right now. Listen what I'm saying now, because I'm not ashamed to say it. That he's allowing a pagan ex-president to cause all this turmoil in the world. Because we got so far away from it. Listen what I'm saying now. He's allowing this. But because all by all normal means, that ex-president shouldn't be nowhere there.
should be locked up.
Should be locked up. But he's allowing this to get our attention because we have become so disobedient and got so far away from it. Listen, in conclusion, it asks a question. Is it okay to question God's apparent actions or inactions? The dependable answer is it depends. Listen what I'm saying. We see God tolerating, even welcoming questions in numerous places. As I studied this last night again, Judges 20 and 18, James 1 and 5, 4 and 2. God, he solicits questions. But this is what he won't tolerate. But one thing God does not tolerate are inquiries that question his justice.
Amen.
He don't tolerate that. You cannot question his judgment. His justice, the prophet Habakkuk, because listen what happened in Job's 4 and 8. And I'm about through. When Job, we talked about it before, when Job got beside himself and wanted to question God, this is what it says in 4 and 8. Then the Lord spake to Job again from the whirlwind. He said, Job, stand up like a man and brace yourself for battle.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question, Job, and give me an answer. Are you going to discredit my justice and condemn me so that you can say you are right? Told Job, stand up like a man. See, that's what happens when you question his justice. Job said later on, Lord, I had no right to ask you. He said, I had no right.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. That's what Job said. We got to be careful. We got to be question his justice.
Yeah.
And finally, I thought to remember, the righteous will live by faith.
Yeah.
The righteous will live by faith. That concludes our Sunday school lesson. We offer a motion to hear our Sunday school minutes. All in favor say aye. Opposed have the same right.